let me start off with this. This video is not meant to slander Dark Souls 2 in any kind of way. A matter of fact, I truly think that Dark Souls 2 is a really good game and I enjoyed it. And it's actually an amazing game. But it's not the best one out of all of the series. The Soulsborne games are truly amazing and have a reputation of being really great games, guys. So I won't really say that Dark Souls 2 is a bad game, because it's not. I truly think that Dark Souls 2 is a very controversial game. There's a lot of opinions surrounding this game, whether or not it's actually a good game or a bad game. And a lot of people have their different opinions about it. But in this video, I'm going to talk about, on this actual topic, I'm actually going to talk about Dark Souls 2 and why it's being hated. What is like the flaws that this game had that not a lot of people enjoyed it in any kind of way. So this video is not a slander, and it's me touching on this topic once and for all because I want this video to be on my channel and just want to leave it here so that people know what I think about Dark Souls 2. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. It will dearly help me with everything. Like, I would appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. Let's start. From Software's Dark Souls franchise is renowned for its punishing difficulty, deep lore, and integrated world design. However, among the series, Dark Souls 2 is often regarded as the black sheep. While it has its defenders, significant portion of the fanbase harbors disdain for the game. This reason for his disdain ranges from gameplay mechanics and world design to the lack of Miyazaki's direct involvement. This essay explores why Dark Souls 2 received such a mixed reaction and why some players still struggle to embrace it. One of the most jarring changes in Dark Souls 2 was its alteration of core gameplay mechanics. Movement and combat felt noticeably different from its predecessor. A particularly controversial addition was the adaptability stat, which directly influenced the character's invisibility iframes when dodging. This meant that early game dodging was far less effective unless players invested adaptability. An obscure and often misunderstood mechanic, I would say. Many saw this as an arbitrary barrier that made dodging feel unreliable compared to Dark Souls and Dark Souls 3. Another divisive change was the increased enemy aggression and tracking. Enemies had an unnatural ability to rotate mid-attack, often making dodging feel ineffective. This led to frustration as players found traditional Soulsborne tactics less effective, forcing them into a different and sometimes less enjoyable playstyle. A hallmark of Dark Souls is its interconnected world, where each area seamlessly links to another, creating a believable and immersive environment. Dark Souls 2 abandoned this approach in favor of a more linear hub-based world, with areas that felt disconnected and sometimes nonsensical. One infamous example is the transition from Earthen Peak to Iron Keep. Despite Earthen Peak appearing to be the poisonous, swampy tower, right? Taking an elevator up somehow leads to a fortress floating in lava. These inconsistencies broke immersion for many players, and I've heard it so many times, and made the world feel less organic. Additionally, Dark Souls 2 suffered from questionable level design. Some areas, like Shrine of Amana, were considered tedious due to unfair enemy placement, while others, like the Gutter, felt uninspired and derivative of Dark Souls. Blind Town. Many locations lacked the verticality and thoughtful shortcuts that made previous Soulsborne games so rewarding to explore. While the Souls series is known for being challenging, Dark Souls 2 was often accused of being unfair rather than difficult. The game frequently relied on enemy hordes rather than intelligent enemy replacement, making combat feel overwhelming and frustrating. Unlike the strategic duels of its predecessor, Dark Souls 2 would often throw multiple enemies at the player in cramped spaces, leaving little room for tactical engagement. The bosses also suffered from this design philosophy. Many fights relied on multiple enemies attacking simultaneously, such as the Rune Sentinels, the Belfry Garolius, and the Lute and Zalin duo. This approach felt like less like a skill-based challenge and more like a artificial way to increase difficulty. Additionally, some bosses like the Covietius Demon and Royal Rat Authority were seen as uninspired and gimmicky. Storytelling in Dark Souls relies heavily on environmental storytelling, and I've talked about this a lot of times in my videos about the environmental storytelling in the Souls games and cryptic item descriptions. While Dark Souls 2 attempted to follow this formula, its narrative felt weaker and less engaging. The game lacked the same depth of character development and world building that made the original so compelling. Characters like Nashandra, the main antagonist, felt underdeveloped compared to features like Gwen and Artorias. Sorry, guys. Let me just the names. Sometimes I've always struggled with the names if it comes to this. The overall atmosphere of Dark Souls 2 also felt inconsistent. While certain areas such as Drangleic Castle were visually impressive, others lacked the haunting ambience and masterful lighting of Dark Souls. The game's engine changes led to downgraded visuals compared to its original reveal, further dampening its appeal. Perhaps the most significant reason for Dark Souls 2 mixed reception was the absence of Miyazaki, the mastermind after everything, behind everything. The visionary director behind Demon Souls and Dark Souls. Instead, the game was directed by Shibuya and Yui Tanimura. Without Miyazaki's guidance, Dark Souls 2 felt different in ways that many players found unappealing. Reports of troubled development cycle, including changes in directions and engine limitations, suggest that the game suffered from behind-the-scenes issues that ultimately impacted the final product. My final conclusion to all of this, guys, is despite these criticisms, Dark Souls 2 is not without merit. It introduced new mechanics, such as power stancing, and provided an expansive world filled with unique locations. Some players even prefer its build variety and PvP balance. However, for many fans, I think you know as well, the changes to gameplay level design and storytelling prevented Dark Souls 2 from achieving the same legendary status as its predecessors and successors. Ultimately, Dark Souls 2 remains a decisive entry in the franchise, no doubt. While some appreciate its differences, others see it as a flawed experiment that failed to capture the essence of what made Dark Souls special. Its place in the series will always be debated, but its impact, whether positive or negative, is undeniable.